Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So, I wanted to discuss this clip that I saw of Italy's Giorgia Meloni, where she gave a speech at the African Union. And before I say what I thought, here is the clip for you all to watch.
In short, our point of view is that Italy and Europe cannot think about the future without taking Africa into proper consideration, because our future also depends on yours. Aware of this, Italy intends to continue to be a privileged bridge between Europe and Africa, making available the strength of its institutions, its great tradition of dialogue, and the expertise of its companies. We want to do this also to achieve another goal that we all consider momentous: to guarantee the men and women of this continent a freedom that has often been denied them. The freedom to choose to remain in their country, to contribute to its growth without being forced to leave it, often paying unscrupulous traffickers to risk their lives in an attempt to cross the Mediterranean. Those who believe that migration is necessary and indispensable are in fact acting selfishly. If young people leave their land and their people in pursuit of the promise of a better life, what will become of the history, culture, and existence of the country they have abandoned? These words are not mine, nor those of a political leader, but of a son who is proud of Africa and who holds Africa's future close to his heart, which is the Guinean Cardinal Robert Sarah.
As you can see, the main focus of the speech was to discourage Africans from risking their lives to traverse the Mediterranean Sea in order to reach Europe. On the surface, it may appear that she is concerned with the safety of African people who are risking human trafficking and other horrors to reach the shores of Europe in pursuit of a better life. However, the message also has a double meaning. While she talks about being worried about various African countries losing their history, culture, and existence, the real subtext is concern about European countries changing as a result of immigration. It's framed as compassion, but it also sounds like protectionism, not just of borders, but of identity. She wants Africans to stay in Africa while offering surface-level aid that may seem like a solution, but ultimately maintains the status quo. And look, I do agree that brain drain and the loss of young talent from African countries is a concern. No one is denying that. But let's be honest, the continent is experiencing a population boom. We are not on the brink of disappearing because a fraction of people migrate. Africa can handle a portion of its population leaving. What rubbed me the wrong way is the fact that these European and American politicians are so terrified of their political landscape changing due to immigration, yet they are part of the very system that contributes to Africans migrating in the first place. They had no problem exploiting Africa's resources, polluting rivers, extracting minerals, and building wealth off the back of African labor and land. That extraction elevated Europe while leaving many African nations structurally dependent and economically vulnerable. But as soon as Africans decide to move toward what they perceive as better opportunities, often to the very countries that still benefit from African resources, suddenly it becomes a crisis. And what is laughable about her attempt to speak to African leaders during her African Union speech is that many of those leaders are themselves compromised, corrupt, or politically entangled with European interests. Some of them rely on the very governments she represents for military support, loans, or diplomatic backing. So the idea that she is appealing to independent, fully sovereign leadership across the continent feels disingenuous. Then there's the irony. She's an Italian worried about cultural dilution and loss. Yet, in the early 20th century, millions of Italians migrated to countries like the United States, Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, and France. They left Italy in massive waves due to poverty and instability. And guess what? Italian culture didn't disappear. It spread, it evolved, it survived. If Giorgia Meloni truly wants to reduce the number of Africans coming to Europe, if she truly wants to preserve Europe in the way she envisions it, then certain structural realities need to change. Let's start with economics. Many African countries were structured during colonial rule to export raw materials to Europe, and that pattern hasn't fundamentally changed. Nigeria exports oil, Ghana exports cocoa. Raw materials leave Africa at low prices, and finished products come back at a premium. That system continues to benefit European industries today. And it's not just trade patterns. European multinational corporations like Shell and Total Energies continue to extract massive profits from African resources. A significant portion of that wealth does not stay on the continent. It flows outward, to shareholders, to foreign capitals, to economies that are already far wealthier. And not to mention the devastating effect these companies have on the environment, which has led to all kinds of sickness. Then we talk about debt and policy control. Institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank imposed structural adjustment programs that forced cuts to healthcare, education, and public investment across multiple African nations. Those policies weakened state capacity and slowed development in ways that are still felt today, and several African countries still operate under monetary systems historically tied to France, limiting full financial sovereignty. You cannot benefit from these imbalances while criticizing the people navigating them. And lastly, our culture won't die. We'll simply bring it with us. Migration has never erased culture. It transforms it, spreads it, and globalizes it. African culture is already global. From music to fashion to language, it is everywhere. It frustrates me when European politicians, or anyone really, complain about African migrants while their governments continue to interfere in African politics, support questionable regimes, and prioritize access to resources over long-term stability. Why not go to France and tell them to stop interfering in African political systems? Why not go to Britain and address environmental damage tied to extractive industries? Why not challenge the broader geopolitical games being played across the continent by America, Israel, and the United Arab Emirates? Why not hold powerful nations accountable before lecturing desperate people? Tell America to stop using aid as a cover to sponsor terrorism. You get the idea. The world loves telling Africans to fix their problem while being the problem themselves or contributing to the problem by enabling the corrupt leaders who have stolen the future of Africans. Look, the fact of the matter is this. If people feel like they cannot build a future in their home countries because the global system is stacked against them, they will move. Human beings have always moved. Many Europeans have moved and migrated across the world, especially Italians. Once again, to reiterate the point, her people migrated to the US, Argentina, Colombia, Brazil, and France during the first part of the 20th century. Yet the Italian culture still exists. Africa's culture will endure, as it has for thousands of years. And as far as I'm concerned, the planet is not owned by one race or one continent. As Africa's population grows, Africans will go wherever opportunity exists, just like everyone else has done throughout history. In short, if the world won't leave Africa alone, then Africa will come to the world, whether people like it or not. Well, that's all I wanted to talk about. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.